Adjourn debate on the Prime Minister's statement and the amendment proposed thereto.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Paula
Mr
Bennett.
Speaker, what a fantastic country we live in and what a fantastic bunch of New Zealanders we've got in it. We have just had a fantastic summer. We have got so many things on track, more work to do, but we are heading in the right direction. Let's look at the fact that we've got one of the highest economic growth rates in the OECD. Employment is growing. 80,000 new jobs were created last year. Fewer people dependent on welfare. The 2014 December quarter shows that benefit numbers are at a 6-year low, Mr Speaker. We have fewer teens having babies than we've had in the last 42 years. We are seeing our roads being upgraded, more New Zealanders getting the operations they need. We're seeing our construction centre booming, more houses getting built, and that, Mr Speaker, is the reality of the direction that this country is going in. However, if you listen to the opposition, you would think it is all doom and gloom. And it might be in their lives. It might be in their lives. That might be how it is for Labor. I mean, if you don't like the person you're sitting next to, if only 4 of you actually voted for the leader that you've got, then it might be that it is a bit doom and gloom. But that is not the reality for the New Zealand that we live in today. That is not the reality for what we're seeing in the lives that people are living, the optimism they have and the belief that not only are through their own hard work are things getting better, but the future looks pretty damned bright. This year we have announced, though, a fundamental policy within housing and social housing so that we can continue to make sure we are addressing the needs of New Zealanders that really need that help most. And Mr Speaker, for years we have seen Labor try and define whether or not New Zealanders are getting the housing need that they need by the number of houses that the state owned. Full stop. No consideration of the lives that those people are leading, the support services that they might actually need, no consideration to whether or not actually there might be someone better than the state that could do a better job for them. Let's just count the houses, tick that box and we've done our job. Which, by the way, gets kind of interesting in itself if we did decide to go down that track, because Labor themselves only had 59,000 houses back in 2004, and we now own or lease up to 69,000. But, you know, we won't let the facts get in the way of Labor's doom and gloom story. So we announced changes that will fundamentally mean that New Zealanders have more choice, more availability of social housing, better services wrapped around them as individuals, and we're growing a community housing sector that, quite frankly, are awesome. That's right. Awesome, absolutely incredible. And there is someone in this House that agrees with me. You heard me in question time today, it's quite exciting. Phil Twyford himself, Phil Twyford himself goes out there and says to the community housing sector, we are committed to your members having access to the income-related rent subsidy, to capital grants and to stock transfer. Well, tick, 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 that's actually government policy. Thanks for the support, Phil Twyford, good on you. But members, you would be mistaken if you thought that actually he was being consistent and that is what he said to them was what he actually believed. Because that's not true. So just this week, in fact just today, we've got a crowdfunding email to the Labor supporters. And it says, can you imagine John Key's face if he opened the newspaper next week and saw a full-page ad highlighting how many New Zealanders are against State House sell-offs? He'd be straight on the phone to his ministers. Through the power of crowdfunding, we can make that happen. We can put an ad in the paper. If only you can all give us a couple of pennies, because we don't even actually have the money to put an ad in the paper. So poor Labor, guys. heading for a by-election they can't afford, flip-flopping on policy that they go out to the community sector and say one thing because they want them on side, but then actually going out with their little bucket because they can't even afford an ad in the newspaper that they think is going to make John Key sit up and take notice. What they don't get, though, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is actually about people. So it's people that have been often stuck in pretty dysfunctional situations and pretty lousy housing. And let's remember what they've turned around and said repeatedly. As long as we can tick the box of the number of houses that the state owns, then we're doing a good enough job by those people. We don't think we are. When I look at organisations that can take women and their children who have come out of pretty hideous domestic violence circumstances, can put them in a safe house and get them temporarily set up, can then move them into somewhere where they can be longer term, where they need quite a bit of time to get through the trauma that they've been in, then work with them to help them into jobs, keep their kids in school, what is actually needed to put the sort of safety and security around them, and then give them hope and ambition so they can save and get our fantastic home loan starts that are coming up very shortly and see them actually go into affordable housing. It's called being ambitious. It is called actually believing in people and their ability, and more so in those organisations that can wrap that kind of support around them for a long period of time. Do not underestimate the effects of having the income-related rent subsidies go to community housing providers. It gives them a certainty of income for the year, gives them the ability to partner with others that have equity so that they can borrow off it, means they can look at home ownership for some of those that are at the tougher end of the scale, because they can actually walk them through the housing continuum that can be pretty tough, as we know, for people that are just trying to get a foot on that property ladder. That income-related rent subsidy that was so arrogantly only for those in state houses, in my opinion, being opened up to a much wider and diverse sector makes a huge difference. Think of those with drug and alcohol addictions that do get into programs for long periods of time. They leave those rehabilitation programs. They need somewhere safe and secure to live that gives them that bridge that then takes them through and into actually their own security, whether that be a rental or into actually buying their own home. It makes sense that they have the support of an organisation that's community-based, knows them, knows the place they live in, and is able to work with them over a period of time. And we're in favour of that. We want to support that. I make no apologies, in fact stand here proudly to say we will support the community housing sector to grow, and we will do some sales of our houses to them so that they actually have another kind of base to work off, and I think they can do it at the very least as well as the government and certainly Housing New Zealand do, and in some cases a lot better, because they can really get in and work over a long period of time. The other thing about the income-related rent subsidies is there will be times, as MSD now does that structure of who they give it out to, where they will say, here is a mum and her children who has come out of a domestic violence place, or have had alcohol and drug, that actually needs some certainty of tenure. We want her to be in the same house for a minimum of 12 years, and we will go out there and bid accordingly and actually pay the price, pay the cost to ensure that she has certainty of tenure. Yeah? So pay extra, pay more support around her, make sure that she is in a home where the kids get into school, we put the right kind of social work and services around her, and see actually a certainty of tenure. You know, these are the kinds of innovative things that we can do in a true partnership with community housing providers, not the rubbish we've heard and the lip service where a member stands up and says one thing to the community housing sector and then turns around and says another thing to the media about what he truly believes their capability is to service people in their own communities whom they are specialists to do. So we back them, we believe in them, we know that there is a long way to go for us to see them playing a larger part, but we will put the money behind them, we will back them in both our contracts with them, and we will also make sure that they are serviced and keep our absolute focus on the tenants and the people who need it most, Mr. Speaker.
For the Honourable Annette King.
This will be a good one.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, kia ora tātou and welcome back everybody for the Parliament of 2015. And I just want to say it's been a wonderful, long, hot